What's up, guys? So last week we went over how to pick the best offer in a multiple offer situation. Well, this week I want to talk about a document that I think is one of the most important documents when it comes to reviewing offers. But before we jump into it, a little bit of house cleaning. I'm Chris Nelson with Genstone Realty, and this channel is all about real estate advice, tips, and tech. So if any of that excites you, you're in the right place. But do me a favor, drop me a comment, consider subscribing. But do me a favor, drop me a comment, hit that thumbs up, consider subscribing, and mash that bell so that you're notified of my future content. Now, when it comes to reviewing an offer, there are several documents that are customary. You have the agreement of sale, consumer notice, estimate of closing cost, a pre-approval, a signed seller's disclosure if applicable, as well as a lead-based paint addendum form. But what really isn't required is something known as a BFI, or a buyer's financial information form. Now, as of recent, I have seen a lot more listing agents require this document to be included in an offer package, but in my 18 years of experience, I can tell you that has not always been the case. So, what is a BFI? Right now, a BFI, or a buyer's financial information form, is a 2-page document that asks the buyer several questions that should be relatively important to you, the seller. But if you're going to say to me, well, Chris, the buyer gave us a pre-approval, why do we need a BFI? Well, you need to understand that a pre-approval literally is a document that says the buyer qualifies for a loan based on their credit and their income. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't tell you where the money is coming from that they need to close the transaction. As a matter of fact, there's several other things that are important to you because, well, loan officers tend to be great, but some of them don't take the best loan application. And this document is a document where you can go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that your buyer is your best buyer in that situation. So let's go over a BFI and go over some of the reasons why it would be important to you. Now, when you first look at the BFI, there are 7 questions that are asked to the buyer. And those 7 questions are, will you occupy the premises? This is important because if the buyer has an FHA or a VA loan or even a USDA loan and this box is checked off no, well, that's a red flag because with all of those loans, you need to physically occupy the property. The second question says, have you in the last 7 years declared bankruptcy, suffered foreclosure, had an account for collection action, had a history of late payments, and any legal action affecting ability to finance? Well, I think it's pretty cut and dry why that is an important question. Question number 3, aside from mortgage financing, is any part of purchase price or settlement cost being obtained from a source other than those shown below? Now, we'll take a look at what's below in a few, but this is where if a buyer was getting a gift letter from their parents or something along those lines, this is where they would go ahead and list that information. Question number 4, do you need to sell any other real estate before you purchase this property? Again, pretty self-explanatory. Question number 5, have you at any time since January 1st, 1998 been obligated to pay support under an order that is on record in any Pennsylvania county? Now, by support, they're referring to child support. And what a lot of people don't know is when you buy and sell real estate in Pennsylvania, the title company will do a domestic relations search on you to make sure that if you do owe any type of support that you are current at the time of that sale. And then it goes on to ask, if yes, list the county and domestic relation file or docket number. Question number 6 is, are there any ranges for alimony or child support due in this or any other jurisdiction? Again, very similar to the question above, you understand why it's being posed. And then lastly, number 7, are you currently going through a divorce or separation from your spouse? If yes, has a separation or property settlement agreement been signed? Now, this is also a very big one because if you're going through a divorce and there's marital assets, well, you need to know whether or not those marital assets are what puts the buyer in position where they qualify for the loan. So again, a very important question. Now, after that, we lead into assets. And this is where the buyer can list any assets that they have, whether it be bank accounts, 401ks, or anything to that extent. That's where they would list them. Underneath that is their liabilities. So if a buyer has a credit card debt, a car payment, or anything like that, they're supposed to go ahead and list what the liability is, roughly a balance, and what they should be paying per month towards that debt. Now, underneath that, it asks if there is any real estate owned. Now, even though there's a question above that says, do you need to sell any real estate in order to buy? Theoretically, you can still own real estate and still be a strong enough buyer to buy a property without selling. But if they own any additional real estate, this is where they would put that information. Now, the second page or the last page of this buyer's financial information form, this is the most important page in today's current real estate market, 2021, when we're thinking about things like the pandemic, because really what you want to look at, in my opinion, is how long they've been on the job and what that type of job is. As businesses close and businesses suffer, well, you may want to consider how likely the buyer is to have that job up until settlement. Because if they lose their job, well, obviously they can't buy the home unless they were planning on purchasing the property cash. And if they're purchasing the property cash, hopefully they gave you current proof of funds and also filled out the liability section in this BFI. Now, underneath their employment history talks about their actual income. So if you're really financially savvy, you can look at this as a snapshot and figure out whether or not your buyer is as strong as they should be and whether or not they are capable of actually getting this transaction done. So there you have it, friends. That is what a BFI is. And again, hopefully it is included in any offer that you receive. And more importantly, I hope you're going over it with your realtor to understand that, yes, somebody may have given you a really, really attractive offer, but if they're not attractive on this document, well, they may not be your buyer overall. So there you have it, folks. I'm Chris Nelson with Genstone Realty. And if you found any value to this video, again, do me a favor, drop me a comment, thumbs up, or maybe even share it. But with all of that being said, tune in next week for the very next Just a Tip Tuesday with Chris. Until then, take care.